Hey, we back, everybody. I'm back. I'm your host, Cogee. Welcome back to Conversations with Cogee. Check this out. Let me tell you something. That was a great first hour. Now, why I say that is because you see that a person can lose everything for a short amount of time and how God can lift you right back up. You know what I'm saying? Even through your rough times and when you think it's all over and you can't make it, here comes that angel through to bring you out and help you out. You know, and that's what it's about. Miss Peaches, what'd you think about that first hour?
Oh, I thought it was a great first hour, and you summed it up really well, Cogee. You know, some of the, get so much time taken, but they still come out, and they're, Olympic gold champions in our book. Everybody that we've had on the show that are doing great things, and we appreciate what they've contributed to society.
That's right. And these people don't die easy. As far as their soul dying in jail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't. No, they got, the fight of a warrior, a heart of a lion. The list goes on.
Right.
Because, just sitting in my world, I can only imagine how their life felt at one time. And I just really want to give my claps to them for everything they've done.
You know, that's right. You're definitely right. So what we're going to do, everybody, like I said, we're going to take a break for a minute. We're coming right back in with Miss Paige Kaneb. Hey, she's over the Innocence Project. You definitely want to hear what she's talking about because she's going to bring some great information. She's a warrior. She's fighting her and her students, freeing people, getting exonerees out. And that's what it's about. So, hey, don't touch that dial. Stay tuned in. But while you're waiting, I want you to get pen and paper. I want you to get your fingers ready to go to the internet and surf for this information because you never know when you might need it one day. But you can never say you didn't know and you didn't have a way of obtaining this information through my show. Okay? So let's get ready and we'll be right back. Conversations with Cogee, baby. Second hour. We'll be right back.
Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and...
Hey, now we back. Welcome to Conversations with Cogee. I'm your host, Cogee. We got a great second hour coming up right now. We got somebody from the Innocence Project. And let me tell you something. We're going to bring it. Miss Peaches, tell them about the great person we're going to bring in right now.
Okay, we have Miss Paige Kaneb. She's been doing really big things in the community after graduating from the University of San Francisco School of Law and taking the California bar exam. Paige volunteered at the Northern California Innocence Project at Santa Clara University, reviewing and investigating claims of innocence. A few months later, NCIP hired Ms. Kaneb as a clinical fellow and then promoted her to a supervising attorney 2 years later. Ms. Kaneb has now been at NCIP for nearly 5 years. She carries her own caseload and supervises Santa Clara law students as they work on cases and learn professional skills. During her time at NCIP, Ms. Kaneb has been the lead lawyer in exonerating 2 men who were wrongfully convicted of murder, been an important member of the legal team in 2 additional exonerations, and second chaired a homicide trial in which the defendant was acquitted.
Okay, there it is. Miss Paige, how you doing today?
I'm great, thanks, Cogee. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad to have you back on. I'm glad you came back through.
Thank you for having me again. I love your show.
Oh, thank you. Hey, and we love you. Trust me. You releasing people. Boy, you are delivering people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's about. This show is definitely 100%, like I said, positive. And we got positive people on here that's changing lives. And you definitely was blessed to be one of those game changers. And we appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me ask you a question. When you went to law school, did you think law was fair?
Honestly, when I went to law school, I didn't know that much about it. But what I did know, I thought could be improved upon, definitely.
Right. What's some of the things that can be improved on? I want to ask you that coming out the gate.
Well, I think recognizing that we get things wrong, recognizing that all people make mistakes, whether they're police or eyewitnesses, even if they're not lying or trying to do something malicious, that people make mistakes. So, we all tend to think that by the time someone gets to a jury trial and they're sitting at the defense table with a defense lawyer that they did something wrong, and we've sort of forgotten this whole presumption of innocence. And I think that's one of the, I actually have a great friend, a coworker who practiced before the defense attorney, and she told me she used to tell people, if you knew someone real close to you who was accused of something, you'd be like, what's the evidence? And that's how juries should be thinking. But, unfortunately, by the time, or how the world should be thinking, anytime you hear someone's accused of a crime, it shouldn't be just, what did they do? It should be, what's the evidence? How do we know that they did this?
Right.
And we've I think we've lost that along the way. And then, of course, there are problems with racism that infect our system, making it, and and class lines, and all of it makes it, very difficult to get a fair trial, which is the ideal in our justice system.
Right. Now let me ask you this. You know how they say you're judged by a jury of your peers? How is that a jury of our peers when we don't even know these people? These people don't even know us. You get what I'm saying?
I do, and generally they're not people's peers, even in the sense of like equals. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We grew, we know the same people. We had similar lives.
Right. Your grandmama, no, my grandmama, none of that. You know what I'm saying?
None of that.
None of that. So don't you think they ought to take it out? That shouldn't even be said no more when they say that you judged by a jury of your peers. How's it your peers?
That's a really interesting point, Cogee. I never thought about taking that language out. I mean, we don't, and people talk about, like, the court opinions have said, as long as the pool you're picking your juries from is representative. So as long as the first 100 people that come in, there's some black people, some Hispanics, some majority white, you're okay, even if you get all white people on your jury and you're black. It's still considered a jury of your peers, and that it's a fair representation of society, and that's just crazy.
Right, because we definitely need that changed. I thought about that while I was riding to the show today. What would be a jury of my peers? Y'all got some of my high school friends. Y'all got some of my principals. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I thought about that.
People know you. And
right. So what would be a jury to you? A jury of your peers, if you could set one up, how would you do it? I mean, I know I'm hitting you with stuff from the side, but just, it's just something for you to think about. What would be a jury of peers to you?
God, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I ideally would want people who've known me a long time, who would know, what I am and am not capable of, what's in my character and what's not, and people who I know would give me a fair chance, who would really listen and make sure that reasonable doubt meant reasonable doubt, and if I was accused, but it's true. I would want people who knew me, who'd be really questioning what the evidence was.
That's right. You're definitely right about that. Let me ask you something. With the students that you mentor to and you working with every day, how hungry are they to get cases overturned for the Innocence program?
Well, we really get a pretty big range of students. A lot of them aren't even going into criminal law. They're just kind of interested in the subject. Some of them come in thinking, there can't be that many innocent people in prison. Oh, wow. And they end up totally changed by the experience, by meeting people in prison, by reviewing cases where they're like, how could someone get convicted based on this, and we get guys coming in here, girls too, thinking they want to be prosecutors who change their minds, or who, just decide they want to go defense, or vice versa. Some people decide that you can do a lot of justice as a good prosecutor, and that's true. In some ways they have a lot more power. And we get people who think they don't want to do criminal law and then come in here and are like, man, this is just fascinating. This is what I want to do. Right. But everybody wants to see the right thing done. Nobody thinks that innocent people should be in prison. Right.
I hear you. So when I bring up Obie Anthony and Maurice Caldwell, what's the first thing come to your mind?
I smile. I love those guys.
Right.
If you could see me now, I have a big grin on my face.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, they came through the show. I mean, you was on the show also. And, I mean, they really lit it up, with information. But let the listeners know right now, what have these men lost in the midst of this whole being accused of something they didn't do?
I mean, really, Cogee, they lost a huge chunk of their lives. I mean, both of them were in for almost half of their lives. And they lost, chances to have, like, Maurice wants a family so badly, and he's now 47 and has is just getting a chance now to even start relationships with women. Right. He lost, his mom, his grandmother, his brother. He couldn't go to any of their funerals. He couldn't take care of them when they were sick. He couldn't be there for people. Obie lost, in a way, he lost his whole family. They didn't have the whatever it takes to go visit someone in prison, they didn't have it. He didn't have visitors for years, really, until his fiancée came in the picture and decided she was going to take care of him. But it's everything, It's being able to see trees, being able to walk around. I mean, Obie, when he was out, like, he would just stand there and stare at trees, just like how beautiful they were, because he hadn't seen any in 20 years, right, or in 17 years. Right. And I mean, it's just so hard. Like, people always think, like, oh, the advancement of technology, and that is a huge thing. But it's everything. I mean, it's being able to make decisions, being able to pick what you're going to eat, being able to decide when to go to sleep, or even have time alone. Like, I just got a letter from one of my inmates, and he'd asked me, how do I deal with stuff? And I said, for me, it's about being alone, because I recharge my batteries alone. And he said, he wrote me back saying, I got to be alone one time in the last few years, and I got to let myself cry, and I felt so good afterwards. And I was just horrified by the idea that, one time in years has he gotten a chance to be alone and just let loose without, being judged or scared or shown weakness, which, in prison isn't that acceptable a thing.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely right on that. Miss Peach, just chime in.
That's amazing to think about, though, how lucky we are to be able to go outside, see the clouds, smell the air, enjoy birds and trees, and just really foundational things that we take for granted. It gives me a new insight and gives me a newfound gratefulness for what I get to enjoy every day.
Right. I hear you. You know what, Paige, let me ask you this question. What would you say to people right now who could be called for jury duty? Let's talk to these jury of our peers real quick. Let's do that. That's just really on my mind right now. You know what I'm saying? Because, me and Maurice talk on the phone. I done talked to Obi. Man, this jury of the peers really pissed people off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What would you say to anybody that's going in right now to be on a jury that's hearing this all over the world right now? What would you say to the people that's going to sit on these juries, to kind of enlighten them before they go?
I would say remember that nobody has been proven guilty yet, that everybody has to get a fair shake, and that really you're deciding what the truth is. That's a jury's job, and it's not just a rubber stamp. It really is. You have the great really role of being able to see all of the evidence, realize that everybody lies, everybody tells the truth. It just depends on the situation, and figure out what actually happened. If this person really is the one responsible. And remember that just because they've broken the law in some other way, or if they don't speak like you, it doesn't mean that they're a murderer or that they're some awful person. It's about the evidence and the facts and the truth, and that's really, I think, if you can just be the searcher for the truth, that's what we want.
Right. And what do you think about what's been in the news lately about different people that's been executed and then come to find out they didn't even do it?
I think that's really one of the most horrifying ideas in our justice system. I grew up in Canada, so I have always been anti-death penalty. I actually didn't even know that the United States executed people until I came here. And the countries that we're among in executing people is a pretty scary list. Generally not the people we like to be counted among. Right. And the fact that we get it wrong and we're executing people who are innocent, I think is just a horrifying idea, and really should be enough for us to get rid of the death penalty.
Right. And even though you can't bring those people back, what do you think the family should be entitled to on something like that?
I would say, in the same way that you can get like a wrongful death, you can do a wrongful death action against police or anybody who kills your child. At the very least, they should be able to do that, and anything that helps clear the name, like make sure that they get their reputation back. So, I think it's really important that we publicize these issues and make right what we did to someone. You ruined their life, took away their life, and really ruined, family members are really affected by wrongful convictions. A lot of times the whole family suffers. It's like they're in prison with them.
Yeah, you definitely.
So, you can't fix that, but to the extent that you can undo some of the hurt and some of the reputation stuff, I think that's and anything that you can do, especially if they had kids and that would have been supported by this person, all that should be fixed in some way.
Right. And you know what? Let me go back to the juries for a minute. I want to say this for the different people out there that get to be a part of these juries. What about when they see that they have different rats in the courtroom, meaning as people that just want to cut deals just to get out of their trouble, and you can tell that deals have been worked and everything? How should they look at that case?
Really, really with huge questions. Generally what we see is people get out and in back over and over again, and the idea that somebody, some people just confess to the same person over and over again, that there's just people out there who everybody tells what they did to, I think is crazy. And I don't know, there's actually a great 60 Minutes episode on this really famous snitch, Leslie Vernon White, who shows how he could just call up and get information about cases and create the circumstances in which he could get out of jail claiming that someone had confessed to him, when in fact he'd gotten all of the information from the police and the coroner's office and the district attorneys. So,
wow.
I think, California has actually passed a statute saying that now you need corroboration before you can present a snitch, because that's how unreliable we've realized they are. It's just, they're not, it's really the only person who you need some kind of corroboration for their testimony or jailhouse snitches.
Right. That's why I want to ask you a question, and I'm just really hitting the jurors right now.
I love it.
Oh, thank you. I got a lot more. Hey, I can keep serving them. I can keep pinching them. Trust me. But but definitely, I just want to ask you those certain things because that's who you have to go against every time you defend one of these innocent clients. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're going against, prosecutors, judges, the jury and everything. And I just wanted to throw it out there and let them know that when you see that it's 4 or 5 different rats and this person will work the deal and that person will work the deal, come on.
Anytime you see someone getting out of jail for what they're saying, I mean, it's like, would you believe someone if they said, someone paid me, 10 years worth of freedom for me to say this? Of course you're not going to listen to that person. That we do it in our criminal justice system is insane.
Right.
And nobody else is allowed to pay off witnesses like that. Like, it's criminal for defense attorneys to do that.
Right.
Because you don't believe people who have been paid to say something.
Right.
But we allow prosecutors to do it. So.
But you know what? I know different people that had already been on different juries, and they'd be like, "Oh man, I was so tired, man. I just said anything. Look, I was ready to get it over with." I was like, "Oh my goodness," to myself. That could have been me if I didn't know you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think people really don't understand what they do when they're part of a jury and they just tired or they just say, "Here, come on, everybody's voting this." So even though I feel a certain way, I just don't feel like battling with everybody at this table. Let's just let it go that way. I don't see how they sleep at night when they do that.
And I think some of them don't afterwards. Like, we've talked to jurors who, years later are still feeling awful about things. I think I might have done the wrong thing, and I thought he might be innocent, but then I felt all the pressure, and so I gave in, and they never forgive themselves for it. So I'd say it's worth, whatever little fight it is, it's well worth it for someone else's life and for your own.
That's right, and I think they never should forget it. They ought to have a wet pillow every night that they do somebody like that, because there's no way to go back in and change it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, I have cases where there are letters from jurors who say, wrote a letter to the court the next day saying, I think I screwed up. I didn't think he was guilty, and then it's too late. There's nothing that can be done at that point.
Yeah, you definitely.
I mean, we can try and find new evidence, but that's it. You can't just say, "Oh, the juror thought they got it wrong, so let's try it again." That's not how our courts work.
Oh yeah, you're definitely right about that. But that's why we have these shows, and that's why I'm going so hard with you. With this situation right now. For our exonerees, somebody's got to fight for them, and it's sad. Our last person that was on said he got out and he was homeless, basically. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it don't make no sense. But what we're going to do, Paige, we're going to take a break for a minute, and we'll be right back, okay? And then I want to talk about the Northern California Innocence Project, all right?
Sounds great.
Okay, so everybody, look, I want y'all to stay tuned in. We got Miss Paige Kaneb on here, and believe me, she's going to bring you great information about the Innocence Project. If you got family members out there that's going through it, if you know anybody that's going through this, we're going to have great information for you to give them to help their families move forward, and maybe they can get this nightmare behind them and get this person out. You're listening to Conversations with Cogee. I'm your host, Cogee, and we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. If you touch that dial, you're like those jurors we talking about, all right? You're part of the problem. We'll be right back. That's right. We back. Welcome to Conversations with Cogee. I'm your host, Cogee, and we got Miss Paige Kaneb on here from the Northern California Innocence Project. Hey, Paige.
Hi, Cogee.
So how's it going so far? Have we really been hitting it?
Yes, I love it.
Okay, there it is. Miss Peaches, what you think about Miss Paige?
Well, as always, she is a joy to have on the show, and I really believe that she's an angel walking earth, because of the work that she's doing with her clients and the people that she works with the Innocence Project, because without her, I know a lot of them would not be exonerated right now, and also with her team, because I know it's a whole team effort
That's
with
right.
you guys over there.
Yeah, it's always
yeah.
a team effort,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
really, I'm really lucky to have the job. It's really great work, and I wrote a letter to these a youth group where Maurice was speaking this weekend because I couldn't be there, just explaining to them how it's worth more than any money or fortune or anything to do something that you believe in and feel good about when you go home at the end of the day. So
That's right. You're definitely right on that. And you know what? How do kids and how do different people perceive their messages from the exonerees when you see them do their speakings?
They get really great reception, and I know, like Maurice is always saying, he feels rejuvenated afterwards. I mean, having people listen and respect what they've been through, and understand that they're innocent, and be impressed with them that
Right.
that they survived something like that and came out so well on the other side. Even though there's damage and there's pain and suffering, but to be able to keep fighting and keep moving on, and for Maurice to be able to support his family, and Obi just got a job. I don't know if he told you, he got a job that he started this weekend, so he can contribute to his fiance, and Frankie, one of my other guys who is in school. He's volunteering all over the place. He's fighting the death penalty. I mean, to be able to have your life taken away and come out fighting for other people is a really remarkable thing.
Yes, it is. You're definitely right. But you know what? How painful do you think it is? I mean, because these guys kind of personally, and y'all talk a lot on the phone and outside of, interviews and all that stuff. How painful is it for them to keep reliving this and talking about it, even though it makes them feel good? But what kind of feedback have you got from them on that?
It varies, and it varies over time too. Like, you see guys who have been out a while don't want to talk about it as much, whereas I think when the more recent the exoneration is, in a way, the more healing can come from talking about it and from having people listen to you. But it's so painful, and there are certain things that all of them won't talk about because it's just too much,
Right.
Like, you never really hear Maurice talking about the family that he lost, because for him it's too personal, too hard, he can barely think about it without crying. So I know that all of them have, little things that they just don't talk about because it's too painful.
Right. And I had asked you on the last interview when I talked to you, and I'm going to ask you again, for the people who didn't get to hear that interview, let them hear your question again. When you are talking to these guys and you're in your office and they in prison, and you keeping their spirits up, but then they say something to you that shake your spirit, and when you get off the phone, do you ever just ride home and just cry sometime for some of these guys? Or you can't sleep at night and you just get up and you just got to start working? What spirit do you carry from this situation?
I think I told you last time I got a ton of gray hairs last year through while everybody was still in before they got out. But yeah, absolutely, you cry for them. It's awful, going to visit them in prison and then leaving them there is really, really depressing. I'd come home some nights and I just couldn't talk. Like, I'd tell my boyfriend, I need the night alone. Like, I can't do it. I have nothing left in me right now.
Right.
And I think I told Maurice recently too that when sometimes I felt like I could just never fully relax while they were in. Like, even I'd be at my family for Christmas, and I'd still be worrying about them and always thinking about, like, I have this just fantastic life, and there are these guys who are just rotting in prison who shouldn't be there, who are just waiting for me. So, there's lots of days I'd go home tired, and I'd turn on the TV, and then I'd think, what a waste of my time watching TV. I gotta get back to work. There's something more important waiting for me.
Right.
So.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, if you could have a camcorder and you could just show the eyes of these guys when you leave the prison from talking to them, that could change a whole lot of people's minds too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
The pain, even though they saying bye, and like you said about Obi and Maurice, how they would always smile and say, hey, okay, you asked me, am I all right, but are you all right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, just the pain that I'm sure you're seeing in their eyes, even through the smiles.
Absolutely.
Can you speak about that for a second?
I don't even really have words for it, but I've seen Obi cry many times. Maurice, he just talks about one time he said to me, my eyes are burning, like when you watch a really good movie.
Right.
But it's really, the levels of protection they have up to are really incredible. But you can see it. I mean, there's suffering. There's so much suffering.
Right.
And I know for my students that can be really life-changing for them to go visit one of these guys in prison, and for both sides of it, to see how nice these guys are and how normal they are. And as one of my students said, I would have him over for dinner.
Right.
But also to see, that there really are people who are just like them, who are suffering something that we can't even imagine. I mean, I try all the time to think, well, what would it be like for me? And I can't even get past the lack of choice. I have no idea what it would be like to be locked in a cage.
Right.
And for the guys who are on lockdown all the time, like the prison Obi was in was always on lockdown. That means he just doesn't get out of his cell. I mean, maybe an hour a day for a shower twice a week. And other than that, you're just in your cell all the time.
Right.
No visits, no family, no phone calls.
Wow.
I can't even dream of what that, I can't even have a nightmare about what that would be like. It's just so incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that. But, I just want to tell you, and I'm going to say again, that with the Northern California Innocence Project, y'all are doing a great job. And the young warriors that y'all are putting in line to come and, finish up the fight, I really commend you guys on that.
Well, thank you. And the students are fantastic. I mean, they have a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, and they work hard, and it's great all around.
Right. Let's talk about your students for a minute. Let's just tell me about them. How excited are you about them? And who are some of the ones that's like a ball of fire that just can't wait? And that they're going to be just really dynamic in what they, practicing to do right now.
Well, we have different students every semester, but I have a few who just graduated who are just going to be unbelievable lawyers. I have this lady, Kate Mowgli, worked on Obi's case. She stuck with it for her entire law school time, from when she first joined NCIP during first semester of her second year. She stuck around for 6 semesters, and
wow.
Even after she graduated was still, kicking around, seeing what was going on. We had 2 fantastic students on Maurice's case who were the same way, Eden Schwartz and Courtney Smith, both of them now lawyers doing great work, and who just, never gave up on the cases, who always were working hard, doing great stuff. I mean, beating the streets, coming out to the projects with me, and writing anything they can, doing all sorts of research, and just always available for anything. Courtney would organize boxes and inventory things, all the jobs I hate doing, she would take over, and she's a much more organized person than I am, so it worked out well all around.
Oh, okay.
And we have so many great students, because we take really about 20 students every semester, and then a lot of them just stick around and keep coming back, both because they learn a lot and because they get hooked on the cases.
Right.
So we're training them to be lawyers, and whatever they're going to go do, they're going to do well and try hard at, and that's really and be ethical, and that's really what we're training them to do.
Right. And personally, what do you want to see from them to go on from this situation?
I want them to work hard at whatever it is they're going to do. I want them to put their heart into it, because that's really where you see a lot of the mistakes. It's just people not trying hard enough, not searching for the truth, not doing their jobs, whether they're defense or prosecutor or police. And I've been telling people, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world. You just got to try really hard and know your case well, and be willing to work nights and weekends, and you'll do great.
Right, I hear you. So how does the California Innocence Project, how do y'all decide which case to pursue?
We get letters from inmates. We will then gather documents for them, so we know what happened in the case and what the evidence was against them. And then if there's viable claim of innocence after we've seen what the facts were, I mean, as long as there wasn't really overwhelming evidence of guilt, sometimes you see DNA plus they confess plus eyewitnesses plus fingerprints, and those are generally not going to be very promising. But we investigate, and if there is new evidence that the person is innocent and it convinces us, and we think it'll convince a judge, we bring it in front of the courts, and usually we're really successful, because we really only bring the cases where there's just overwhelming evidence that they're innocent, that they didn't commit the crime whatsoever, weren't there, or sometimes no crime even happened, and that's our process. I mean, it takes a long time. We don't have any right to police reports. We are a nonprofit, so we rely on we do fundraising for our salaries and for our money to go out and investigate and hire experts.
Okay.
So, we move slowly because we don't have enough money, we don't have enough lawyers, but we do what we can.
Right, and y'all doing a great job with what y'all doing. Like I said, with what little y'all have, y'all definitely fighting the fight. So let me go to a phone call real quick. Frank, how you doing? Welcome to Conversations with Cogee.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'd like to ask your guest, how does the system respond to the good things that they're doing if people in the system, DAs or maybe officers, reputation will be tarnished by these mistakes that they make?
I'd say it really depends on the person. We have some prosecutors who, they see the evidence and they're like, oh my God, we got it wrong. Let's fix this. Let's get the person out. We have some officers who will work with us to investigate cases. There are DAs all over the country who are starting up their own integrity units. There's one in Dallas that's just been doing great work and exonerating a lot of people. And judges generally have a really good reaction to us. Generally, they like what we're doing. And even though we're, making them work and bringing back stuff that's old, they see that we only do it where we need to, where it's reasonable.
And lastly, is there a certain region of the United States where more wrongful claims are made than any one particular place?
I think right now it seems like Texas has both the most people incarcerated and the most exonerations. It's also where they have DAs working on exonerating people. Virginia also just has, the prosecutors in Virginia got a grant to do DNA testing and actually got 78 cases in which the DNA didn't match the person who was in. So they haven't released who all those people are yet, but it does seem like where DAs are reviewing cases, and because they have access to everything. We have to fight to even get DNA testing done. Innocence projects do, but if the DAs can just do it. So where they're working on stuff and where they're actually looking at cases, that seems to be where the most exonerations are.
Okay, there it is. Thank you for calling in, Frank. We do appreciate that. You know what? Let me ask you this. What about people that didn't get a fair trial, but they not actually innocent? Do y'all take those people?
We don't. We will try and refer them to other people, but if you are not innocent, that's not what we do. Even though I think everybody deserves a fair trial, and everybody who works at an Innocence Project believes that, we really only focus on people who were actually had nothing to do with the crime.
Okay. Have y'all been having problems with that? Like people really complaining, about that situation?
No, I think people are pretty understanding of what our criteria are. We do get people who don't like that we don't believe they're innocent, but we haven't had a whole lot of flack from people who just didn't get a fair trial and want help. We do generally refer them to other places. Similarly, people who want to sue the prisons, we refer them to the prison law office. But yeah, I mean, and part of the issue is also, Cogee, even if you didn't get a fair trial, you have to show that whatever went wrong would have made a difference, that it's a reasonable likelihood that of a different outcome, so that the jury would have acquitted had they known of the other evidence, or had you had a good lawyer, the jury would have acquitted you. So if you aren't innocent, even if you didn't get a fair trial, it's really hard to get your conviction overturned anyways, because you have to show that it would have mattered.
Right.
So that's really where we focus our energy.
Okay, there it is. Miss Peaches, chime in.
I think that it got to be hard to read letters and know that it's not something that the Innocent Project can take on, because it is still somebody that's hurting. I'm sure. Have you guys ever gotten a letter that you just were like, wow, really, you guys, you really wrote this to me? Honestly, you're wasting my time reading this letter right now when I have truly innocent people to deal with.
Lots of times, and that can be frustrating. But then you'll get one, like I recently got a letter from an inmate who works as a paralegal in prison, just giving me a heads up that the guy I'd visited, that he believes in his case, and he wasn't even asking for any help for him. He never claimed that he was for himself. He's not saying he's innocent. He just said, I really believe this guy's innocent, and I hope you can help him. And you get stuff like that that's really, kind of heartwarming and renews your spirit in people. And like we did a big outreach. We got a grant to identify DNA cases. And there were a lot of people who wrote in saying, I am guilty, but I really like what you guys do, or like, I did my crime, but I know of this other guy who didn't do it. So those, the idea that everybody says they're innocent in prison isn't exactly true.
Right.
There are a lot of people who are more than willing to admit what they did, and they know it's wrong, and are just now serving out their time.
Yeah, that. I hear, and that's cool that they can have a good heart and write you out and say y'all doing a great job. But I have a cellie, a roommate, and he really didn't do it. I done it, but just kind of shine a light on this situation, and that's really cool.
I love those.
Right, because sometimes people want to keep company with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't want them to get out. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Definitely.
what I was wondering. Has there been sabotage?
Right.
I've dealt with that personally.
Oh, no, I haven't seen any of that.
Well, that's a blessing.
Yeah, and Maurice always tells me that anytime anybody gets out in prison, like, it's just a huge celebration with other prisoners. They're just really happy to see that happen. So.
Right,
wow.
right. And that's a good thing. But, I just want to say that even with Maurice and Obi, and like I said, these guys, man, they spirit is so great. And I told Maurice on the phone, me and him talked, I said, you better than me. You know what I'm saying? But, like he said, it all came with time. You know what I'm saying? For him to feel. And Obi said the same thing when I talked to him. It all came with time. So, I do understand that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, though. I mean, I'm constantly amazed at what good people they are. I'm always telling them I'm not nearly as good as you are.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, my goodness. But you know what? How proud are you of the people that have been released and you seeing them walking the line and doing right, and not falling back into what people said they were, but coming up as a new criminal in the court system?
I'm so proud of them. I tell Maurice all the time, I'm like just bursting with pride at him. I mean, he's such an amazing person, and everybody who meets him can see it. And all my guys are just really fantastic people.
Right.
And I'm really proud of all of them. I can't say enough that like what they went through is not something that's easy to survive, and a lot of people are completely destroyed by it. I mean, not everybody comes out as well as they have.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just to turn to, stay strong and fight for jobs that don't pay much, and but just to, stay on the straight and narrow is wonderful, really heartwarming.
Right. And I got 2 more questions to ask you real quick. We down to 4 minutes.
Ooh.
4 minutes. See how quick? Me and girl, we be putting it down when you come on the show. Look how quick that went. I mean, that hour was gone. And I do appreciate it. That shows me and you have great conversation. And we do. Every time you come on the show, it's very great. Let me ask you, what is the look in the eye, and how do you feel, real quick, 20 seconds, when you see these people come out of jail after all these years?
Oh, my God. It's just amazing. I mean, the smiles on their faces, the sort of overwhelmingness of it, and it's kind of like seeing all this, because while you're fighting for them, it gets so frustrating. It feels like it's taking forever, and then it's sort of like seeing all of it work out and the world righted again and justice system working is just, it's overwhelming. It's incredible.
Right. And believe me, they tell me the same thing. That, man, when we walk out and we can give her a hug and we can laugh, but we can walk off and talk.
Yes.
That's the greatest feeling in the world. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. But now, one more question to ask you. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Will love really save the day?
I think so, Cogee. I think that's most of what we've been doing. We've been doing it through love. You gotta love it to work the long hours we do for. We get paid less than public defenders.
That's
so
right.
Whatever that tells you, and it's I think the same thing through judges and through DAs who end up cooperating. It's all about having an open heart and an open mind, and being able to see that just because we got it wrong doesn't mean we can't admit it and set things right now.
That's right. Miss Peaches, real quick, what you want to say to Paige?
Oh, thank you again. We appreciate you. And, yeah, that hour did fly by fast, and I really like what you just said. Just because it was done wrong, we got it wrong, we can admit it and move on and make it right. And that's what it's all about in your life and line of work of what you do, but also in regular life for anybody who's listening.
Yeah.
There it is, definitely. So, I want to thank you, and I got a lot of love for you.
I feel the same way, Cogee. I love talking to you.
And the Northern California Innocence Project. I want everybody to check it out. And real quick, Paige, can you give them your website and stuff real quick? 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's law.scu.edu/NCIP. So Northern California Innocence Project, NCIP. If you Google us, you'll find us, but also it's law.scu.edu/NCIP. And we do work on donations, so
that's right.
If anybody feels moved, we
That's
appreciate
right.
it.
And they should, definitely. So everybody, that's been Miss Paige Kaneb on here, and I want to thank you again for everything you've done. And like I said, keep that love burning in your heart and keep saving lives, okay?
Okay, thanks, Cogee. Thanks for having me, and thank you for spreading awareness about this really important issue.
All right. So remember, anybody, if y'all get in touch with Paige, tell them Cogee sent you. We'll talk about a discount. All right. Well, you take it easy. Much love, okay?
You.
All right. Take it easy. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. So everybody, that's Miss Paige Kaneb. Hey, we're going into our third hour. I'm telling you, we'll be right back. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back. Much love. Cogee, baby.